What is going on, CBB Nation? So let's start sharing our screen here. Maybe you know how to do appointments. Maybe you don't. You're going to learn today. So let's just call this appointment bot. All right, cool. So we are going to make an appointment bot. So what I want to do is I want to first go to my marketing tools and I want to make a calendar. So I'll come here and go to appointment scheduling. Then I'm going to come here to integrations. This is the new thing that I went over super briefly. And so we'll go into a little bit more in depth here. Google Calendar is what I'll choose. So Google Calendar, and we'll choose this one because I know there's like no appointments on here. Maybe one, maybe out of a test. You're going to choose your calendar, click continue. And I can see, okay, great. My calendar is set there. Fantastic. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a calendar. So I've connected my actual calendar. You don't have to do this, but I'd recommend it. And now you can have mini calendars, as many as you want to have. Now, keep in mind, if you have 100 calendars you need to have, your prompt and your functions better be on point, son. And that'll be very difficult to do. I'll be quite honest with you. Can you do it? Yeah, sure. Should you do it? Probably not, man. Could you do 10? Sure. You could do 20, but like, you just got to be very strategic about that. That's for another episode, maybe. You just click on add another calendar set. I could add another one right here. I'll add my second one, continue, allow. And so now I've got both calendars here. I wasn't going to work with this one because I know that that's not going to be connected to anything that would be conflicting. So I've connected the external calendar. Now it's time to make the actual calendar. So I'll click on the calendars tab and I'll click on add. We'll call this CB calendar, continue. So here I'll just say, you can use custom fields here now. Thank you for the awesome feedback and requests, CBB Nation. This is why we're the best. We listen to you guys. You guys have the best ideas. But what I'll do is I'll say, make an appointment right now before you regret it. Just make it mysterious. When can people book? I'm not going to change anything here. How can it happen? You can choose phone calls, but I'll leave it as, I'll leave the default notification system, which you can choose to use or not. Restrictions, I'll also leave blank. Now, this is a section here that you do need to pay attention to. So for example, by default, we have a minimum day in advance field. And so a lot of people can get tripped up because they'll say, okay, I've got a calendar connected. I've got availability today. Why can't I book? Why is it not available? Well, it's because we've got the restrictions in place. So if you don't want that, you can like, boop, go to 0. No problemo, man. You can book in the day. That is a big one. And then also a daily limit. This is also trips people up. So in this case, I'm not going to change anything, but just pay attention to your configurations here, because this is the number one reason why your calendar might not function exactly like you would expect, like you want it to. It will do exactly what you tell it to do. That's what you can take to the bank. Again, we can go down here and make sure we're actually connected to the calendar, which is a new thing you need to look at now. And so I've got my calendars here and I'm choosing we'll choose this guy. I see that's doubled up, but if I hit save here and I go back, it'll not be there. I've got my calendar set up now. I've got my integration set up now. So you've got your calendars here and you've got your integration. What you want to do next is make a flow. To create the booking, you don't necessarily need to do this. It will work, but to make sure it's absolutely consistent, you're going to want to control when the bot provides availability information versus when it actually books the appointment. I'll show you what I mean. These are your default flows. These are the flows that come with the calendar. I'm going to now create a new flow. And this is in our documentation. If you'd rather follow along with text, you can do that too. I'm going to do first availability, continue. And what I want to do is, in my case, I want to go ahead and use an action. And let's click on this appointment scheduling tool and understand what's going on here. We're going to click on the element and we see that we have some options. Book an appointment, cancel an appointment, check availability, which is the one that we're going to use. We're going to check availability and we're going to select the calendar that we want to use. So this is CB calendar, the one that we made, and we need to create 2 new cuffs for a start date and an end date. I'm going to just keep it simple. Click add new and I'll click on starting. And then I'll do one for ending. And what this is going to check is going to check the window of availability. So I've got my starting and I've got my ending. Result used by AI. So this is to make things even faster and easier. We format things for you with AI. If you'd like, as you're going to see, I'm going to format it myself. You could turn this off if you want to. It's no problem. But you're going to want to save this into a custom field. So I'm going to just save this as a new custom field. We'll call this availability. All right. So let's recap. We're making a flow. We're using an action, the appointment scheduling tool. We are using check availability at the top. We've got our calendar selected. We have starting as a custom user field for the start date, ending for a custom user field for the end date. I've got results used by AI turned off. You could have it turned on. I'm going to use AI, but I'm going to use it my way. I got the prompt chain on, so I'm going to do things my way. You can too, or you can just use what we provide by default. And I'm going to save the response, and the response is going to be the 3 next consecutive available spots or slots. And we're saving that information in availability. So you could print the information. You could print the cuff availability just like this if you wanted to. That could be what you present if you wanted. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jazz it up a little bit, and I'm going to use my own prompt to make the dates sound better. So what I'll do is I'll click add content here. I'll click actions and open AI. I'm going to move this guy up. I'm going to give it a little prompt. I'll be like, make this sound better. It's my favorite prompt. Here's a refined version. So here's what I'll do is you have the availability. So what I've done here, and again, I show you guys some advanced things sometimes. You don't need to do so much, but I want you to understand this one concept. You don't necessarily hardly ever need to mess with this field. But what it usually is going to be last input here. This is what we have by default. The user message is typically going to be the last input. On certain special occasions, this being one of them, you could take control of that text that would be coming from the user. As the admin, you can just kind of control anything you want, which is awesome. So in this case, I'm going to take away the last input. Maybe I could include it. I could do it this way too to show you availability. So I'll say here is the availability. Here is the last message from the user. You could do something like that if you wanted to. And again, we're going to have to save this into a custom field. Let's make a new one here. I'm going to call this just something simple, AI reply. So what's happening here? This is the custom instructions that we're giving our AI agent here. And this is what the user message would be to this assistant. If we're generating the response, and it's going to be saved as AI reply, continue. Instead of availability, it's going to be AI reply. Let's hit publish here real quick. And I should be able to see that custom field. AI reply right there. I do need to check here. So starting. When are we going to define what is starting and what is ending? So with starting, I'm going to do that with a function. And then with an ending, I'm going to define that in one step here. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to go to add content, click actions, and I'm going to go to set custom field. I'm going to move this guy up to the top. This is where it's going to get a little funky. So pay attention to what I want to do. I'm going to set the ending to a special kind of cuff or operation here. We're going to use math operations, and it's going to be based off of the start time. So what this is going to look like is this. We've got our starting here, and then we're actually going to do, in this case, I'm going to use 7 days. So this is in seconds. Okay. So you can add from a date and time using seconds, any number that's going to be your window. All right. So we're going to start at a certain point, which I'll show you what that's going to look like. With a function, we're going to collect that as a date, and we're going to add 7 days. Okay, so hit save. So what's happening here, this is going to be our flow that is going to be triggered when someone needs the availability. So they're going to check the availability, and we're going to have a 7-day window. The first thing that's going to happen is you'll see how we collect the starting date. That's going to be what triggers this flow. So the first step of this actual flow is we're going to set the ending date of the range. That's what it really is. It's the start and end range of when you're going to allow the system to check for availability. So in this case, they're going to say tomorrow. Well, the starting date would be tomorrow, and it would be plus 7 days. That would be your ending custom field to check the range. 7 days from the starting step or the starting date. Click save. And so what's happening here, again, we're setting the ending date. We've got that done. That's then going to the appointment scheduling tool. So we're checking the availability of the specific calendar. We're going to get the start date next. And the end date is what we've defined in the very first step of this flow. We're not going to use AI. We're just going to use the extracted dates and save it under availability. We're then taking availability and we're using it here in the user message so that we can get a generated response that sounds natural and provides the information that we need to give to the user based on these instructions. It's being saved in AI reply. And so we'll see that here. So let's click on publish, and availability is the name of the flow. So what we'll do now is we'll go to our settings. Let's go to integrations, open AI, edit. And then I'm going to say something like, you are a helpful assistant who takes appointments and provides appointment availability based on requests. Super simple prompt. This could be an agent. This is an agent form when you're using this, by the way. Currently, we don't have any functions enabled. I'll click continue. Let's go ahead and make the function that we need to trigger that flow. Scroll down to functions, click add, and we're going to call this check availability. Allows the user to request availability for appointments. All right, so whenever they need to check the availability, what we'll then do is let's see if we can just trigger the availability flow. I mean, we really could do that, but what we'll end up doing is we'll get the start date. So we'll say starting date, and then here we'll click on start. Allows the user. Okay, and we don't need to do anything with the calendar. We're just collecting the starting date right here. We're going to collect the start date, and then we're going to trigger the availability flow. Okay, so click continue. So now we've got our first function, check availability. Let's go back into our prompt here. So now we've got some information to play with. We'll say when the user asks for availability, you must request when they prefer to have the appointment first so that you have a starting date. All right, so we get a starting date and we'll do the check availability. And so we'll say, once you've got the starting date, activate the check availability function. All right, so we'll click continue. And so what should happen is, we'll test this right now. I'm going to start the conversation. I'm going to beat around the bush a little bit. And then the goal is I'm going to be like, all right, I want to know what's available. And so what'll happen is the function will trigger this flow, and it's going to understand whenever I say what date I want, it'll say, okay, here's going to be the time range. So if I'll say like tomorrow, it should say, okay, the starting date is tomorrow, and then it'll be plus 7 days for our calendar. In our case, it'll give the 3 consecutive date and times in a row, probably all on the same day, you know. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's go to the welcome message here. I'm just going to hit preview, continue. All right, and so I'll make the screen bigger. Yo, what up, homie? Who is this I'm speaking with, and what do you do? I'm your virtual assistant, here to help you with appointments and check availability. Okay, so I'm going to say, yeah, tell me what is your availability for Tuesday. We'll see if we get our answer here. Could you please provide a specific date you're referring to? Let's see if we can say, I'll just say Tuesday, 3/11/25. The availability is as follows: 11, 11:30, and 12. And that is basing it off of my current time I see. And it's going in the morning, obviously. So it's literally doing exactly what we want. And you can control this, how this works within your prompt, because we're getting the entire calendar. Watch, I'll show you what I mean. I'll go to availability, and this is what I do this for the reason, number one, yes, I do love Snoop. He's the homie, but watch this. Here's the availability. Here's the last message. And then I'll say, ensure that your output is smooth and fun with an extreme likeness of Snoop Dogg. That'll make it more fun, I think. I'll say, ensure the formatting of the text is of that of a casual conversation and nothing special. You know, so like you can control things pretty well. And if like it really comes down to it, we could add some things to the user message and it would be really, really controlled. To show examples is even better. But this is how we're getting the answer. So we're getting, we're checking the availability. So you could also say, in my case, you could go for the earliest time. It's all controlled here and here. We'll now say, we'll make the function to actually book the thing. So we'll go back to back. So let's click add and we'll say book. This is the one that we have as the placeholder text. Actually, you can follow that almost to the T. Book appointment allows the user to book an appointment. And then the date that we'll collect, or the data we'll collect. In this case, we'll need to make one additional custom field because I need one for date. This one's kind of like a special one. So let's click continue, go back to flows and custom fields, and we'll add one that is just called date. Okay, and then it'll be a date and time. Continue. Now we're Gucci. Go back to functions. We're gonna click edit on book appointment, and now we can say date and date. Okay, allows the user to book the appointment. And now we've got date here, and we will choose the calendar, CB calendar. Okay, we don't need a flow here. We could say, awesome, we've got you all taken care of, homie. And so this is going to generate a similar answer to this in whatever language, which is the benefit here. Okay, so if they're all speaking in Spanish, this will, you have this in English even, it'll understand to keep the conversation going in Spanish, which is cool. All right, so this is very simple. Book appointment allows the user to book an appointment. What do we need to collect? The date. It's going to be saved on this calendar, and we're going to say, awesome, we've got you all taken care of, homie. Continue. Let's go back to integrations, open AI, edit, and we'll add the new function. We'll also add some instructions here. We'll say, after a user has confirmed the date they want to make the appointment with you, Your job is to then activate the book appointment function and let them know they're all set once they've been booked correctly. Cool. All right, so after users confirm the date they want to make the appointment with you, your job is to activate the book appointment function. I'll use the underscore just for accuracy's sake, and then let them know that they're all set. Then let them know once they've been booked correctly. All right, so I think that's going to be fine. Click continue. All right, cool. So let's go ahead. Let's go to the book appointment and click edit and click add, and we'll say user's name, user's email. All right, so let's go full name. Let's do email. Okay, cool. Let's click continue, and let's go to our prompt and do a better job here. I'm going to say after users confirmed the date they want to make the appointment with you, your job is to activate the book appointment function. I'm going to say after users confirmed the date, I'm going to say make these instructions sound better. And then underneath that, provide some user and assistant examples. And I'm going to trust that that's going to work. It's essential that you first collect the user's full name and the exact date that they would like to schedule the appointment. Once you've got those details, your task is to trigger the book appointment function after successfully and clearly inform the user their booking is all Gucci. It's exactly what they said. So I'm going to just copy all that because that's legit. So boom, let's go ahead and click continue. Let's try it out. So I'm going to be like, hey, what's up, homie? You still there? I have a couple questions if you've got a minute. I want to make an appointment for this Friday. What's available? Full name, Snoop Dogg. And I don't know the date, but it's this coming Friday. Get it right, player. March 14th, son. Bam. See, and it's going again. It's going off that, and I can prompt it any way I want. I'll just say, this is fine. Great choice. Could you provide me your email address? snoop@aol.com. Now I should. Boom, it should like that. Pause was a function. Your appointment is confirmed for 11:10. Awesome. We've got you taken care of, homie. If you need anything else, drop it like it's hot. Let me see. Who is that? Who is that, dude? It's my homie. Snoopy Snoop right here in the flesh. Did we make the appointment? Yes, we did. Wow. Don't. How you like that, CBB Nation? I have too much fun. But I just want to make sure this is clear. Like, this is really, truly the best way for appointments. So could you get away with not having this flow? Yes, you could. We've done it before. Matter of fact, it's so good, it tricked us. Okay, like sometimes it just has worked out that way. But without this step involved, your bot is not going to truthfully understand the status of your calendar. And so the availability is an important piece of that. If you do the availability function in this case, it'll never get it wrong. It's going to grab those 3 dates, and you could say, in your prompt here, in the tone of Snoop Dogg, and you could say, only provide appointments at the top of the hour and only on even times, starting at the very beginning. You could do something like that if you wanted to. It's going to just basically go off of what has the user set as that starting point and your ending point. In our case, the ending point was almost not meaningful because we had so much availability in our booking. But say, for example, you had only 1 hour a day that you were going to allow appointments, then that would make a lot more sense because you're checking an appointment availability range of longer range versus something like a 24-hour period. These are two different things because when you're looking at those 3 consecutive times, this prompt is going to be your best friend because we're pulling everything that we can. It's not as difficult as a lot of people might think, but it can be made to be maddening when you know that your calendar is set right and the bot, it gives you like a randomly wrong date. This is the solution to that. Everyone can pretty much handle, I think, the function to make the booking happen. So as long as basically it works like this. Here's a great way to explain it. In a best case scenario, if the person that needs the appointment magically perfectly asks for an available slot every time, this will work for you every single time without fail. It'll just work. However, if the customer doesn't ask on a perfect date and time, that's when things could get wonky and it could go off the rails. This is in what I've seen in my experience. It'll start just spitting raw information out because it's just like, what? So if you have the availability flow as the control, it'll always get it right. You'll always have the correct dates provided, and it'll always book correctly regardless, but it's just a much better user experience when you do it that way. But that's the trick. And so here it's saying homey here because this is what I've added in the output message. Check availability is the one that you really want to understand. Allows the user to request availability for appointments. Here's the starting date. That's how the start date is set. And then the availability flow is triggered. Let's go back to that flow one more time and then we'll get off this thing. In this case, again, because we've got now the starting date and the request for the appointment availability, starting date has now been saved. Trigger this flow. The availability flow is triggered. And so now the first step of that flow is we want to set an ending to the range that we're going to check for. And so we're going to set the ending. In my case, I'm going to use a math operation and I'm going to use the starting date. And in this case, this is 7 days and seconds. Okay, what is this? Like an hour, I think it's like 3,600 seconds. I think it's 3,600 or something like that. And so this is going to be where the end date is. So you've got a start date that's already set before this flow is happening. So all this flow needs to do is set an end date. End date set. Now we can use the appointment scheduling check availability tool. And then we can use our calendar here. Here's the starting date that was predefined previously before this step was this flow is activated. Before this step, we just defined the end date. You could turn this on or off. Depends on how good you want your output to be or how customized you needed it to be. We turned it off and we saved those 3 dates in availability. Then we used those 3 dates that are separated by commas, and we're like, yo, OpenAI, here's the availability and here's what the user said. You really don't even need this because I've got the conversation turned on. When you've got generate text, by default, the conversation is turned on. So you don't necessarily need that. It's going to generally be good enough to understand without this. So here's the availability. That really could be all you need. Truthfully, you could probably just get away with just that. And it would be the same. Here's the information. Well, here's what we're going to tell the bot to do. And here's what to do it with. Here's the availability, right? And then again, if you want to see what the availability looks like, if you go here, you can see that. Yeah, separated by commas. This is how it is pulling. So what happens is when it's time to check your calendar, we're going off of the start date and the end date. We're going to find the 3 consecutive available slots, and that's what we're going to pull back. Without AI added, it's just going to provide this. If you enable it AI, it's going to have a little bit more text. It'll be formatted a little bit better. It's like, or here's your available slots is what it's going to typically say. And it'll be formatted a little bit nicer. What I do is I'll take matters in my own hands and I'll format it in the way I want to based on a prompt. I hope this helps a lot. It is correct. Yes. I don't know who that is. That might be Asta. All right, guys. I think that's all I've got.